Latest updates straight from Manchester. City fans have barely had time to breathe and already find themselves facing a flood of information that could completely change the course of the season. If you follow every detail behind the scenes at the Etihad Stadium, stay with me until the end, because the drama that is unfolding promises to stir up pride, rivalry, and even the history of English football. But first, of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive firsthand everything that happens with the greatest club in the Premier League. Now, let's get down to business. The first bombshell came from the English press. Manchester City are said to be planning a shock offer to prize Kobbie Mainoo away from their Manchester rivals. You heard that right. We're talking about a $70 million move. Something almost unthinkable when you consider the rivalry and the transfer history between City and United, which practically doesn't exist. According to sources close to the club, Pep Guardiola has already given the green light for the board to push ahead with negotiations, believing that Mainoo fits perfectly into the style he demands: high-intensity pressing, quick ball circulation, and tactical intelligence. Mainoo, just 19 years old, is seen as one of the most promising talents in English football. But under Ruben Amorim at United, the reality is very different. The youngster has been racking up games on the bench, watching players like Ugarte and Bruno Fernandes take his place. In the last derby, once again he was left out of the starting lineup, and that detail only fueled speculation about possible discontent. Fabrizio Romano had already reported months ago that the youngster had asked to go out on loan, but United refused, reinforcing their stance of keeping him as part of the squad. And here comes the big question. Would the Red Devils really allow themselves the luxury of letting Mainoo go, and to their blue neighbors of all clubs? The answer seems obvious, but football doesn't always obey logic. With every game he spends on the sidelines, the pressure around his situation grows, and it would be no shock to see him force a move in January. For United, a sale would bring in a significant sum and help balance the books under financial fair play rules. For City, it would be more than a signing. It would be a direct blow to the rival's heart. And what do you think, City fans? Is it worth investing $70 million in a prospect who hasn't yet had a consistent run as a starter at United? Should Guardiola push ahead, or is it too big a risk? While that story plays out, City have also received some good news. After a shaky start to the season, with 2 defeats in 4 rounds, a key pillar of the team is smiling again. We're talking about Rodri, the engine of the midfield, who admitted he is finding his form again after the serious cruciate ligament injury suffered last season. The Spaniard, crowned Ballon d'Or winner in 2024, knows he is not yet at his peak, but his mere presence already brings more confidence to the team. In an interview, Rodri stressed that the recovery process is gradual, that patience is needed, but assured fans he is making good progress. He has started 2 recent matches, and supporters have already noticed an improvement in defensive solidity and midfield control. Bernardo Silva, his longtime teammate, even said that even below his best, Rodri is still better than most holding midfielders in the Premier League. That shows just how vital he is to Guardiola's system. Rodri himself also has an interesting take. He believes the enforced break caused by the injury could actually help prolong his career. Cases like Virgil van Dijk's are used as a reference. At 29, with a contract until 2027 and already linked with rumors involving Real Madrid, the Spaniard is giving strong signals that his immediate future will remain in Manchester, especially thanks to the trust the club showed during his recovery. This comeback is vital because without him, City seemed to lose their identity. Now, with Haaland in form and Rodri looking stronger with each match, fans are beginning to believe once again in the team's balance. But that's not all. Another name is beginning to steal the limelight behind the scenes. Jordi Mokio, Ajax's latest sensation. The Belgian, only 18, has already caught the eye of Europe's giants, and reports suggest City have entered the race alongside Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, and, of course, United. The competition promises to be fierce. Mokio fits perfectly with the renewal strategy City have been pursuing. Just think back to the last summer window, which brought in 7 signings, including Donnarumma, Ryan Ait-Nouri, and Ryan Cherki. At the same time, legends like De Bruyne, Walker, and Gundogan said their farewells, marking a generational shift. This focus on youngsters such as Mokio shows that the board are planning not only for the current season, but also for the club's long-term future. For now, it's only rumors. No official offer has been made. But the way City are closely monitoring the Ajax talent suggests something could happen soon. For Mokio, it would be a golden opportunity to learn under Guardiola and develop in one of the most competitive environments in world football. And to close this first part of the bulletin, there's a story that could tug at fans' hearts: the future of Bernardo Silva. The Portuguese star, a symbol of commitment and intelligence on the pitch, has a contract until 2026, but so far there have been no talks about renewal. Juventus are already preparing to try and lure him with the promise of a starring role in Turin. Even at 31, Bernardo remains an important piece for Guardiola, who has even handed him the captain's armband this season. Still, it is natural for the club to think about squad renewal. Benfica made an approach, but didn't move forward. Now, Juve seemed determined to offer him a new adventure, and this could mark the beginning of the end of his time at the Etihad. When we talk about Bernardo Silva, we are not just discussing numbers or statistics. We are talking about a player who has earned the trust of the fans and become a symbol of the Guardiola era. Since his arrival, the Portuguese midfielder has shown not only technical quality, but also tireless commitment. He is the type of player who can operate wide, centrally, or deeper, and still maintain the same level of excellence. That is why the thought of his possible departure sparks conflicting emotions. On the one hand, gratitude; on the other, the fear of losing a fundamental link in the team's system. Juventus, meanwhile, see Bernardo as the perfect piece to rebuild their midfield, which has lost prominence in recent years. The old lady is looking for experienced players who can be leaders both on and off the pitch. And, of course, signing Bernardo for free in 2026 would be a true masterstroke. The Italian press are already highlighting this interest, naming the Portuguese as their top priority for the coming season. This puts City at a crossroads. Renew now to avoid losing him without financial return, or accept that Bernardo's cycle is nearing its end. At the same time, City's board have not rested in their pursuit of young talent. The case of Jordi Mokio is a clear example. The Belgian, a gem brought through by Ajax, attracts interest for his versatility. Able to play as a creator or in more advanced roles, he fits the profile of a player Guardiola enjoys molding. Moreover, his youth makes him a strategic investment. He can deliver on the pitch and, in the future, generate financial return if sold for a higher fee. The race for Mokio, however, will not be simple. We are talking about one of the most closely watched youngsters in Europe, and clubs such as Arsenal and Liverpool have a track record of betting on players of this age group. Even so, Guardiola's presence in City's project could prove decisive. Many players have admitted they chose the club because of the manager, and Mokio could be the next name on that list. Returning to the subject of Rodri, it is important to highlight how his comeback changes the team's dynamic. In his absence, City had to improvise, sometimes using Stones in the holding role, sometimes turning to youngsters like NDI. The result was instability, especially against opponents who pressed high. With Rodri, calm returns because he is a silent conductor, the one who balances attack and defense without needing constant spotlight. That is why, even without being at 100%, his mere presence already brought relief to the citizens. And when we consider the Rodri and Haaland combination, the impact becomes even greater. Haaland started shining again precisely when he had more support in midfield, confirming that the collective is the foundation of success. Guardiola always reinforces this idea in his interviews. The star is the team, but even he knows that some players are irreplaceable. Rodri is one of them. In the case of Kobbie Mainoo, the situation remains full of suspense. What stands out most is Guardiola's boldness in targeting a direct rival. It is rare to see transfers between City and United. The rivalry, fueled for decades, goes far beyond the pitch. It is social, cultural, historical. That is why the thought of Mainoo wearing the blue shirt sounds almost like fiction. But modern football has been breaking taboos. Just remember cases such as Sol Campbell moving from Tottenham to Arsenal, or even Carlos Tevez, who made the journey from Old Trafford to the Etihad, sparking one of the biggest controversies of the time. Mainoo, despite his youth, already shows maturity on the pitch. His ability to read the game and remain calm when making decisions in tight spaces are rare qualities in players of his age. Guardiola believes that in the right environment, he can develop into one of the best in Europe, and that is precisely why the rumors will not stop anytime soon. The youngster may not be available right now, but January is just around the corner, and external and internal pressures could turn this saga into reality. United fans would naturally react with outrage. To see one of their own prospects cross the city and shine for their rival would be a painful blow. But what if the club does not give him enough minutes? The player's frustration could weigh more heavily than the board's resistance. That is the dilemma now taking shape, and it is set to gather momentum in the coming months. In this scenario of transitions, departures, and arrivals, Manchester City appear to be building a new cycle. The farewell of legendary names such as De Bruyne, Walker, and Gundogan marked the end of a golden era. Yet at the same time, it created space for new leaders to emerge. Donnarumma arrived to take over in goal, Ait Nouri to bring energy to the flank, and youngsters out on loan could return even stronger. The balance between experience and youth is, without doubt, the club's central bet to remain at the top. And that brings us back to Bernardo Silva. If he leaves in 2026, fans could witness the arrival of names like Mokio or even other youngsters already under the board's watchful eye. It is the famous silent renewal, where great clubs reinvent themselves without losing competitiveness. And Guardiola, a master of this type of reconstruction, seems to have already set the board in place. Manchester City are currently in a delicate phase of transition, but one that also offers major opportunities. It is precisely during such periods that clubs reveal their true capacity for planning. Guardiola and the board know that it is not enough to focus only on the next match. They must view the season as a whole, and beyond that, the medium and long-term future. That is why so many names appear in the speculation. It is not only about strengthening now, but about ensuring that in 2 or 3 years' time the club continues to dominate the European stage. The Champions League, for instance, is always the ultimate goal. The recent triumph brought relief and crowned a cycle, but the hunger has not diminished. Guardiola understands that the squad must be refreshed and motivated to maintain that drive. Young players such as Mokio represent that injection of freshness. Meanwhile, experienced figures like Bernardo Silva and Rodri provide the backbone and necessary know-how. The challenge lies in finding the right balance. And we cannot overlook Haaland, the striker who carries the burden of delivering in the biggest matches. The Norwegian may seem unstoppable, but he too depends on the collective. When Rodri was absent, when Bernardo was going through a dip in form, Haaland struggled more to receive clean service. This interdependence shows how City function as a living organism, where every part directly affects the other. In that sense, the potential arrival of Mainoo would carry both symbolic and practical weight. Symbolic because it would send a clear message to United. We are ready to take your talents if you do not look after them. Practical because it would inject youth and versatility into an area of the pitch that always demands renewal. City supporters may question the $70 million fee, but Guardiola knows that young English players, particularly those on the rise, are never cheap. Just remember Jack Grealish, signed for $100 million, or Declan Rice, valued even higher. Meanwhile, the saga of Bernardo Silva remains unresolved. The Portuguese has experienced highs and lows at the club, yet he has always delivered in decisive matches. He is the kind of player who steps up when the pressure is suffocating. Guardiola values that, but he also knows that cycles do not last forever. The fact that his contract expires in 2026 places a visible deadline on the relationship. Juventus, sensing opportunity, are moving intelligently behind the scenes. Fans, in turn, are beginning to imagine scenarios. What would City look like without Bernardo? Who would take on his creative role, his quiet leadership? Perhaps Cherki, signed recently, is being groomed for that responsibility. Perhaps Mokio himself, if he arrives, could be shaped in that direction. Or perhaps Guardiola will surprise everyone, as he has done so many times, by completely altering the team's tactical shape. Amid so many uncertainties, one thing remains certain. Manchester City do not stand still. Even when there seems to be silence, something is always happening behind the curtain. It was that way when Ruben Dias arrived, it was that way with the signing of Haaland, and it may well be the case again with Mainoo or Mokio. Guardiola dislikes improvisation in the transfer market. Every move is calculated. Every decision is backed by a greater logic. This explains why City so rarely fall into prolonged crises. There are setbacks, yes, such as the recent defeats to Tottenham and Brighton, but the response comes swiftly. The 3-0 win over United after the international break proved just that, their ability to bounce back quickly. That is a hallmark of true champions. Another aspect that deserves highlighting is the club's approach to loans. Grealish, Akanji, Echeverri, and even Vitor Roque were loaned out for a season, which might seem odd for players of their caliber. But the strategy is clear. Give minutes to those who would not have immediate space, increase their market value, and later decide whether to bring them back or sell them for profit. This long-term mindset is what allows City to keep their squad both competitive and sustainable. Returning to Rodri's case, his recovery also raises a reflection. How will City handle players as they approach 30? Bernardo, Rodri, even Ederson before his departure, all represent pillars of the club. But time catches up with everyone, and Guardiola has shown he is unafraid of renewal. De Bruyne's farewell was painful but inevitable. The same could happen with other icons in the coming years. Nevertheless, there is no cause for despair. The club have financial resources, infrastructure, and one of the best scouts in Europe, Hugo Viana, now leading the sporting department. This ensures that even when losses occur, replacements are always in the pipeline. The transition may cause unease among some fans, but it is part of the evolution of any champion team. And in this chessboard of moves, one phrase from Guardiola sums it up perfectly. City never look only at today. They look to tomorrow, to next month, to the years ahead. That mentality is what keeps the club at the summit. For this reason, rumors about Mainoo, Mokio, and Bernardo's departure are not mere backstage gossip. They are part of a bigger mechanism, one that builds both the present and the future of the team. And so, Citizen Supporter, amid rumors of arrivals, announced farewells and comebacks that rekindle hope. Manchester City once again show why they are synonymous with ambition and planning. The Mainoo saga, Rodri's recovery, interest in Mokio, and the potential exit of Bernardo Silva are only chapters in a story that promises many twists this season. The truth is that every detail, every behind-the-scenes move, could prove decisive for the club's future. Now I want to hear your opinion. Should City really invest heavily in Kobbie Mainoo? Is it worth battling Premier League giants for Jordi Mokio? And regarding Bernardo Silva, has the time come for his farewell? Or is there still room for him to write another chapter in the sky blue shirt? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That way you won't miss any updates about the greatest team in the Premier League and will always stay on top of the latest Manchester City news. A big hug, and see you in the next video.